Hello and welcome to the first SpearCenter episode of the fall semester. I'm your host, Alexis Corona Aguilar.
And I'm Sebastian Ramos. San Jose State men's soccer went up against Utah Tech on Thursday. Coming into the match, it looked like the Spartans were turning their season around. They won their two previous appearances, most recently against Utah Valley. Reporter Larry Larkin lets us know if the streak continued.
San Jose State men's soccer played at home against Utah Tech. Here's what happened.
San Jose State came into the game undefeated in conference play. SJSU's lead scorer on the season, Angel Iniguez, did not play because of a yellow card accumulation. NCAA rules state that any player who accumulates 5 yellow cards in a season is suspended for 1 game. Junior forward Diego Bautista led the Spartans with 4 shots. The Spartans did have a bright side, as junior goalkeeper Edgar Guerra recorded 2 saves and shut out the Trailblazers playing all 90 minutes. It was his 3rd shutout of the season. The Spartans outshot the Utah Tech Trailblazers 17-8, but in the end it wasn't good enough as the game ended in a 0-0 tie. Through 3 games in conference play, SJSU is in a tie for first place with Seattle University at 7 points apiece in the Western Athletic Conference.
The Spartans are back in action Sunday at home against UNLV. Reporting from Spartan Soccer Complex, Larry Larkin, The Spear. Now back to the desk.
Thanks, Larry. San Jose State's men's water polo heads into the week ranked 12th in the nation. The Spartans look to rebound after last week's loss, but the path gets no easier. They face off against number 4 ranked University of the Pacific on Friday. Reporter Anfisa was there to give us a recap of what happened.
Today we recap number 12 San Jose State men's water polo second Western Conference matchup against number 4 Pacific that resulted in a 14-6 loss at home on Friday. The Spartans entered the game with the overall record of 5-2 and 1-0 in the Western Conference. They started strong with goals from sophomore Louis Ferentsen and driver Mateo Bosic taking an early 2-0 lead. Despite their promising start, SJSU struggled offensively throughout the game. Head coach Gabriel Sarusi noted that the lack of defense was critical to the team's loss. The Tigers unleashed a 5-0 scoring run, putting them ahead 5-2 by the end of the second period. Coach Sarusi pointed out the mental mistakes that plagued this team.
Because we play against teams that have a lot of experienced 5th and 6th year seniors, and they don't make those mistakes.
As the game progressed, the Spartans showed some resilience. In the third period, they narrowed the gap 6-5 thanks to a goal from Miles Suchet. However, that momentum didn't last long. Pacific's offense, led by senior Rule D'Souza, put on an impressive performance with 3 goals and 3 assists. Pacific will go on to outscore SJSU 5-1 in the final period. Looking ahead, Coach Sarusi said the team is in need to refocus defensively.
So we need to get back to our defensive mindset that won a championship last year, and hopefully we can correct it.
The Spartans will have a week to regroup before heading to the Harvard Invitational, where they face Bucknell 7:30 a.m. on October 19th. This is Anfisa Pachati from The Spear, and stay tuned for more updates.
Thanks, Anfisa. San Jose State football is currently on the top of the Mountain West rankings with a conference record of 2-0. We now turn to the Spear's football reporters Aaron Johnson and Christian Vieira for a talk on the current state of the team heading into Saturday's game against Colorado State.
Hi, I'm Aaron Johnson.
I'm Christian Vieira.
And we're here to talk about San Jose State football.
Yep, they got a big game this week, Mountain West against Colorado State. Kind of want to get your thoughts on that game first, Aaron. What you think to look forward to this week?
Well, I was speaking to linebacker Jordan Cobbs at practice, and then he's very thrilled the fact that they're not facing a running quarterback this week. San Jose State has been facing John Mateer and Brendan Lewis for Nevada and Washington State, respectively. The past 2 weeks they've played, and they have been running all over them. They've been kind of like struggling to keep them in the pocket. But, I mean, the defense looked good outside of that, but those scrambling quarterbacks is what the team struggled with, and he said he is thrilled not to be able to face that. They're facing more of a pocket passer and more of like a run-heavy team this week.
Yeah, and the thing about those last 2 quarterbacks is those two quarterbacks led each of their teams in rushing yards. Not a running back. It was the quarterback leading the team. And that's definitely not going to happen this week with this quarterback. So I'm looking for the D-line to eat a little bit. Maybe Sawanai Toya get in there. He's been kind of moving around from D-tackle to outside a little bit. So to get some pressure, Dylan Hampson might have a great game, true freshman. Just getting that pressure in on that quarterback.
Yeah, most definitely. And then one of the biggest stories to come out of football in recent weeks is Nick Nash is now on the Blitnikoff Award watch list. I mean, he's had a fantastic year in offensive coordinator Craig Stutzman's new system. I mean, he's been playing that slot position that historically has been so good in all of his other offenses throughout, like, his whole career that he's done this. So I believe he's second in the nation right now in passing yards. I mean, he's looked great. I mean, what have you liked from him in the offense?
Coach Stutzman calls it the spread and shred. We talked about renaming it to Nash and Gash, because that's what this offense has been, especially early on in those first couple games. It was just like, wow, this guy looks unstoppable. And even though last week against Nevada they showed some double coverage more, we kind of saw what the offense could do when Nash gets shut down a little bit. And he didn't get shut down per se. He had a touchdown catch and throw. But other guys got the ball as well, and the ball was able to spread a little more. But back to Nick Nash. I mean, he definitely deserves the Blitnikoff Award. He's been here a long time. Interesting story. Former quarterback, switched positions, and now to be playing at this high of a level at a new position, it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, not to mention he threw a touchdown. His second touchdown pass of the year. He's got 2 now. He's 2 for 2, 2 touchdowns. But he can throw the ball, but let's talk about the guys throwing the ball for San Jose State. We've got Emmett Brown, who's been the starter, currently leads the Mountain West in passing yards right now. But last week against Nevada, we saw he was struggling, kind of missing some reads. And not the whole game. He played good up until like the last few drives. Nevada must have figured something out. And then Stutz made the split-second decision to say, hey, let's get him out of here. Let's get Walker in there. And then Walker came in, drove down the field 5 for 5, ended up with a rushing touchdown, the Floyd Chalk. And now there's sort of like a controversy they've been talking about. It's been up in the air. We haven't been able to figure out who's going to start. I guess we'll just have to see at game time. But, yeah, I mean, like, what do you think about that whole situation?
Well, like you said, Walker came in and performed well. His first drive went 5 for 5, led the team right down the field. It looked like he was spreading the ball down a little more too. And then when it goes back to Emmett, he did have a great game up to that point. He had 2 touchdown throws, but his balls were getting batted down. He had 3 batted down balls by those D linemen. And let's be real here, Emmett is 5'10", and Walker is 6'3". So there's a big height difference there with those quarterbacks. So maybe that was a decision that, obviously the coaches didn't tell us that, but maybe just from the outside looking in, it looks like that could have been a play in the decision to kind of get that offense going again. And Craig Stutzman, offense coordinator, was telling us today he has had a past of switching up quarterbacks just to give some guys a different perspective, give Emmett Brown to see what it looks like the offensive-wise from the sidelines. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to note for all the Spartan football fans out there that this is something that Stutz has done in the past, and he's kind of mentioned that they're both going to be competing for a starting quarterback job throughout the entire season, so the battle may never end. So we could be seeing a lot of switches depending on who matches up better with certain schools, so that's something to keep an eye out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, guys. Want more SJSU Sports? Reporter Vincent Rupena updates us on what is coming next week for the Spartans.
Welcome to your SJSU Sports recap for the week of October 14th. After a week of many home games, most teams are now on the road. Starting off the week on October 11th, just into October 15th, women's tennis is at the ITA Northwest Regional. Thursday night is packed, starting with women's volleyball away against New Mexico at 5:30 p.m., then moving into both soccer teams, the women's being at San Diego State at 7 p.m., and the men's playing against Cal Baptist at 7 p.m. On Saturday, both the men and the women's cross-country teams will be traveling to Sunnyvale for the Bronco Invitational. Women's volleyball will play out Air Force at 11:30, and the football team will have their homecoming matchup against Wyoming starting at 1 p.m. On Sunday, October 20th, men's water polo will finish up at the Harvard Invitational in Rhode Island. Women's golf will also be finishing up the Stanford Intercollegiate. Women's soccer will have a match at New Mexico at 1 p.m., and then the men's soccer will play SJSU at 3 o'clock. That was this week's sports schedule. This is Vincent Rupena, sending it back to the desk.
Well, that does it for our first show of the semester. Be sure to follow us at the Spear SJSU on all platforms for more content and coverage of San Jose State athletics. For the Spear, I'm Sebastian Ramos.
And I'm Alexis Corona Aguilar. Thank you, and go Spartans!